I know Travis just mentioned the fact that you kind of shift up the training regimen going into the postseason. How do you feel that helps taking the 2 day approach or 2 times a day approach?
Well, for one, it allows us to do it when you don't have weekend matches, So, we've had weekend matches pretty much for the last 7 weeks leading into Iowa last week. And you only get so many days, and you're traveling, and you have to take a mandatory day off. So you all of a sudden just get 2 or 3 good workouts in a week. So this allows us to get several in. And I don't know. I think we talk about peaking and trying to have our best performance here at the end. And it's as much a state of mind as it is whatever you do. You just tell yourself and remind yourself and get ready to wrestle the best I wrestled all year, and that's peaking, and then go do it.
You've talked in previous years of guys something just clicking and suddenly they elevate their performance on the mat. Do you feel that that's what you're starting to see with Wyatt over the past month?
Well, he's done a nice job. There's a level of confidence that came along. I think with Wyatt, he's just got to be prepared. I think he's going to win against maybe a guy 17th or 18th in the country or 20th by 2 or 3 points, and he's liable to beat a top 5 guy by 2 or 3 points. So he's still trying to find where his points are coming from, but the attitude is there in the match, and that's the thing. We're not seeing him give up easy points and get rattled early. We're just seeing a real good attitude, and now we need to add the points to it, and we have a great opportunity with him.
Last year, there was some flexibility as far as what you were going to do in the postseason. Are you pretty set?
Yeah, we're set. We'll go with, of course, Nick at 25. Reese will be our 33-pounder. I'm kind of going blank here. Dusty Hone at 41. 49, Boo. 57, of course, Wyatt. And then Travis, Joseph, Maltavo, Gear, and we will go with Harris at heavyweight. So I think what Harris has done over the last couple of weeks kind of just set him apart. And he can help us. There's seven qualifiers at heavyweight. It's coming out of the Big 12, which is big. We have a total of 54. So the building this conference over the last 5-6 years, it's starting to show the benefits that I thought it would have, and that would be that we would be one day taking 60 guys out of the conference to the NCAA championship. I think you're going to see in the future, I think you're going to see 70, maybe 75, unless something changes, unless the rules change. But last year it was quite a bit lower than this year. So you're just seeing the improvement in programs and the development in programs, and that's all we hoped for when we was thinking about this.
You mentioned those 7 qualifiers at heavyweight. What is it about maybe the last couple guys that you feel that Harris is a guy who may be able to sneak in?
Well, you got to win some matches, right? I mean, to finish in the top 7, you're going to have to win a couple matches. I think 2 and 2 will get you there. I'm not putting him. We just know that we're going to have to win matches. And I think this is a year that you want to qualify as many as possible because you want that experience for them at the NCAA championship, even if they don't play. So looking at it a little different, we're not going to win a national championship this year, but at the same time, we could really help ourselves as we move into the future. So, and I'm really encouraged by the number of qualifiers that the conference got. And remember, when they say that the Big 12 got 54 qualifiers, some of those are automatic. I mean, most of those are not most of them. All of them are automatic qualifiers, meaning those kids that qualified that way will go to the NCAA championship. Any of them get beat outside their field of, let's say, they're taking 4. Nick Piccinini finishes 5th, which he won't, or 6th. he still goes, and someone that just stole the qualifier. So I bet there's probably going to be anywhere from 4 to 6 additional qualifiers as we go forward. So that would push us up to hopefully 60. So that's a good thing. Our two that didn't qualify the weight classes is 74 Joe Smith and Harris. Joe didn't get enough matches in. His RPI wasn't high enough, but yet he's ranked in the top 15. So it's kind of hard to, somebody that's wrestled the whole second semester, that you're limited in them because of they didn't wrestle the first semester. So it's what it is, and Harris, of course, just hasn't won enough matches. So Joe will have to win a spot, and I think at that weight class there is 6. So the top 6 go to the NCAA champion. Might be 5, but I think it's 6, maybe 5. You have to check.
Yeah.
I just said if you're taking 5th, then you couldn't go anyway, or 6th. So
Or just winning. Then you don't have to worry about it.
go win. This is the time to win.
With Travis going up against Marinelli in Iowa, even though he came in with a loss, going up against the top 2 guy in a hostile environment, how are you feeling about him heading into the postseason the way he's been wrestling lately?
Well, I think, he really has been pretty steady all season and been pretty consistent for us. He's kind of fell into an environment over the second semester where, teams that we were wrestling really didn't have a good 65-pounder. That's not his fault. That's really rare. Well, I shouldn't say. It's normally you have one of your athletes kind of fall under that, So I'm just glad he got to wrestle a top-tier guy, because I think the best kid he had wrestled up to that point was 8 or 9, So he got to feel it, and he knows that he's not too far off. But, in the end, you got to score points. He didn't score an offensive point, and those are things that you just need to think about as you're wrestling better people, is I got to score offensive points, And when I say offensive points, I talk about more like takedowns and turns, not so much an escape, but more takedowns and turns.
You mentioned those kind of additional schools in the conference. I remember even when it first happened, you said you expected those smaller schools to kind of elevate their game, just being a part of Big 12. Are you seeing this a big year and seeing that kind of come to fruition and making it a deeper league?
Yeah, I mean, you look at the dual meet season and you see some things that really interesting, that you wouldn't have saw 20 years ago, 15 years ago maybe. I just think that competition brings everyone up. We're not going to sit around and accept the fact that we're, ranked 10th or 11th or whatever we're at. We're not going to sit around and say that's a good season for us. No, we're not going to do that. But how you elevate your program up, and I think if you look at the Big Ten, their strength is because of the top tier teams are right there, and they're wrestling each other and they're fighting for not only dual meet wins, but in their conference, but then they're going to the conference tournament and fighting. So starting to see that materialize with our conference, and it's going to make a difference. So, I think that you're going to see some historical teams that are part of the Big 12. You're going to start to see them probably taking those steps up, and it helps us all when it's competitive. And you got to fight for your wins.
Do you feel it helped the conference if there was a push from like a Northern Iowa this weekend?
Yeah.
And instead of you guys rolling to another win?
Well, there's going to be a push from them. Yeah, they got a good enough team to win. I think Iowa State has a good enough team to win. I think that there's North Dakota has appeared to have a really good season. So I don't. For us, I think we're in position, but you just you got to be wrestling. If we lose in the championship bracket, you got to be wrestling for 3rd and 4th. That's where your points come from if you're not making the final. So we got some guys that are going in. Reese could end up anywhere from 3 to 7. They've all beaten each other, you know. He could be ranked, you know. 41 likely will fall somewhere around 4. 49, of course, would be 1, and Wyatt probably should be 2 or 3, and then Travis would be 1. Joe could be anywhere from 4 to 8, you know. Pretty deep. Otavo should be the top 3, so here probably 5 or 6, you know. So, you know, we got quite a few guys, you know, that are projected to win a couple matches and lose a couple matches. Well, you do that with 4 or 5 guys, and you're not going to win a tournament, you know. So that's what I said. If we find ourselves dropping down the consolations, we need to be wrestling for third. So that means you're going to win, you know, additional matches to make sure that we continue to push the score.
Did you get to go down to Oklahoma City, see your
Yeah.
signees this weekend?
I did, and I was very impressed with the state tournament. You know, just Todd Goolsby, who represents OSSAA, and a good friend, really did a nice job. You know, women's wrestling and the first state championship was kind of neat to watch. You know, being there, kind of be interesting. You know, 25 years from now, what it's going to be like, you know, to think that there was a lot of young ladies that had an opportunity to be the first state champion in the state of Oklahoma. You know, you think about our first state championship men's, and it started, I believe, in the early 20s. You know, almost 100 years ago. You know, so exciting to see, and I think the growth of wrestling in Oklahoma is going to really grow, you know, and some good things are really happening.
What you think of the performance, the outstanding wrestling performances by your 2 signees, Doucette and the Tuttle Serber?
Yeah, you know, and Serber's, he's a hard-working kid, you know. He's a coach's son. Really developed through the years, you know. It hadn't been easy for him. It's been kind of tough. You know, and he's really starting to see a lot of confidence in him. He's starting to build his strength up. He's tall and lanky, you know, and you're starting to see, you know, his body just widen out a little bit. And that's exciting to see because you start to feel, you know, your coordination. You start to feel a lot of things when that happens. Doucette, big kid, you know. I looked at him down while he was wrestling a couple times, and looks like he's bigger than when we signed him. It looks like he's been working really hard on the weights, and you know, you could possibly see both those guys next year wrestling for us. I don't know. You know, we're kind of in a position where some of these true freshmen will be starting next year.